Good afternoon. I'm Richard Genesee, the Vice President of Customer Energy Solutions for Austin Energy, and I want to welcome you to our Solar Standard Offer Stakeholder meeting. So for all the folks, come on in. Welcome. So welcome to the meeting. This is our sixth Solar Standard Offer Stakeholder meeting. We're really glad that you're here, whether you're in person or whether you are virtual and online. This program has been in development since the last rate case. So it's been in development for quite some time, and you as the stakeholders are an important part of the process. We've had discussions, we've taken input, we've worked really hard, I think, to come out with a very compelling offer with the ultimate objective of expanding solar in our community through solar developers. As we'll get into more in the meat of the presentation, it's really important that this offer really stand on its own, meaning that it is not paid for, it's self-sustaining, and it's not paid for by non-program participants. We plan on bringing this program to council in October, and pending council's approval to do a soft launch of the program in October, consistent with our commitment since the last rate case in terms of when we would come to market with this program. So it's been a lot of hard work by a lot of individuals, and we can't express our appreciation enough for your part in the process as stakeholders, because this really is all, at the end of the day, this is about a benefit for the entire community. So with that, I will turn it over to Tim, who will take us through the rest of the program. And then obviously we'll have a lot of time available for questions. I do want to point out one person that we have here. Our CFO, Rusty Manius, is here. And so we appreciate his attendance, and members of the team as well from our AE Finance organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. I'm Tim Harvey. I'm the Customer Renewable Solutions Manager. Thanks for joining us today. And we are going to go through the standard offer program and reveal the rate, as well as some other information. So let's jump in. So first, I just want to kind of set the background on this for those who may not know. The solar standard offer is meant to add capacity to the community solar program. Currently in the community solar program, we have 3 projects that you can see here on your screen at the airport, Palmer Event Center, and La Loma Solar Farm. Since we've developed these projects, we have went out to bid multiple times. We did not receive proposals that we viewed as successful. They were either too high in price, or there wasn't enough site control, or the project just wasn't viable for other reasons. So the standard offer is a new approach to try to procure more capacity into the community solar portfolio. So these customer-sited projects will serve that purpose. So how does the standard offer work? Basically, a customer on the distribution grid will host a project. That host customer could be the owner, or they could work with a project owner. And if a host customer is working with a project owner, then they would likely get some kind of a leasing agreement to make it worth their while. The system owner will work with a participating contractor to install the system. The participating contractor will need to pull the permits for these systems, move through all of the requirements for interconnecting solar that currently exists today. Once that system is up and operational, then Austin Energy will begin payments to the system owner. Then once we've acquired energy from these systems, that will go into the community solar program, through which we will subscribe customers to that energy and give them better access to renewable energy through the community solar program. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how the system, or how this program is going to work and why it's here. Our desired outcomes are to increase affordability and create a sustainable community solar model and portfolio builder, so that we can increase the subscriptions and the overall capacity of the community solar program, through which we help low-income customers with bill savings, and we provide access to solar to people who normally wouldn't have access to solar, such as renters, people that don't have the access to capital to make their own systems, etc. We're also looking to expand the program. So we're reducing the barriers to expansion. We are facilitating the standardized approach, so that basically we're putting out the information to the contracting community so they know what the target is. With the RFPs that we sent out and those proposals that we got back, they weren't hitting the target. So we want to put that information out up front, as much transparency into the pricing as we can, so the developers can identify those projects and build them. And obviously this helps us to decrease our reliance on fossil fuels, so it's good for the environment. And then we're increasing accessibility, not only through increased community solar program participation, but also by creating a mechanism through which property owners that previously had a split incentive, where they wouldn't be the direct beneficiary of solar production, can become that direct beneficiary. And so that opens up new projects, an example of which is like a strip mall, for example. So you have tenants that have triple net leases. The tenants are paying their mortgage, their taxes, and their utility bills. And so if that property owner were to develop solar and put it behind the meter, the tenants would benefit from that investment, not directly to the property owner. So through the standard offer, we enable that direct benefit back to the property owner if they want to make that investment, or to a third party. So now on to the rider. So this is the big news for the day. We have, let me get this out of the way. We have created a standard offer rider. It will be going to council for ultimate approval. Through the rider, we will be paying the solar integrator, or the solar owner, a rate per kilowatt hour for the energy that they produce. The payment rate is based on Austin Energy's avoided costs that are line loss adjusted. So we're looking at the ERCOT energy savings. So for every kilowatt hour that we produce in our load zone, that's a kilowatt hour that we don't have to buy off the ERCOT market. We're looking at avoided costs for ancillary services in the same way. And then transmission savings. So transmission savings are gained because transmission costs for the following year are based on the highest 4 days in each of the 4 highest months. So it's called 4CP, 4 coincidence peak. And the 4CP sets that transmission rate. So to the extent that we can avoid consumption during that time, or generate our own power within the distribution grid, then we're avoiding those transmission costs for the next year. So that only happens with systems that are under a megawatt. If it's over a megawatt, then we have to add that production back into our load zone pricing. and we don't get that 4CP benefit from those systems. So that's why there is no transmission savings on systems over 1 megawatt. Okay, that worked. So these values are track along with the value of solar rate. Avoided cost, same methodology, same frequency of analyzation, and same frequency of updating. So out of the gate, we will be at 7.61 cents for systems under a megawatt and 4.94 cents for systems over a megawatt. Then the rate will adjust in 2026, March of 2026. So at that time, it will adjust to the average of the previous 5 years of analysis. So that will be years 21 through 25. You can see on here the 2021 test year, which is what everything's based on right now. You can see how the market changed in 2022 and again in 2023. So in January of 2025, we will populate this chart with the 2024 numbers, giving a little bit more certainty to what the trend will be to get to the 2026 value, because we still don't have the 2025 numbers. In January of 2026, we'll post those numbers, and then everyone will have certainty as to what the value of the standard offer rate will be in 2026, March of 2026, when we roll it out. And that will be applicable to all standard offer projects. We will adjust then again in 2029 based on 2024 through 2028. So that will continue. The rate changes over time, every 3 years. And then the standard offer projects will receive the prevailing rate as we move forward. Do we have any questions about that?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Actually, it's a Shay from UGE. So when the rate is set and the system is contracted, is that rate for the life of the contract, or do you mean that the actual rate the system gets paid changes every 3 years?
The logic is that we're trying to stick to the avoided cost to Austin Energy. We want this model to be scalable and replicable, potentially in other markets. These producers of power are different than our customers, because our customers are consuming that power behind the meter, offsetting their bills. This is a revenue producing mechanism. So, this is more of a merchant power plant. It will be eligible, as is part of the community solar program, it will be eligible for a 10% tax credit, as we understand it. So there's that added benefit that these providers will get that our customers don't have access to. And so that's basically the rationale that we're thinking right now. Plus, we think this is an above market price because it's tied to Austin Energy's avoided costs, not just the market, but all of our avoided costs. And so as such, we think that this is a price that will move the market.
In short, I think I would
Thank you.
summarize it by saying it's
turn
a
my
different
camera off.
proposition than value of solar. So from that standpoint, while it has similarities and some of the things, elements are the same, it's a different proposition. Value of solar is one thing, and solar standard offer is a completely different thing. It's analogous to, we don't pay societal benefits or any equivalent.
Richard, would you please use the microphone?
So since this is modeled to be like EPA, we're also not paying societal benefits. No, I know, it's not, but it is like a PPA in terms of purchasing energy. Purchasing energy in the same way that we purchase energy via PPA.
So we're differentiating it just like the state differentiates it and others. And I'll go into that a little bit more in a minute.
Folks in the room can't hear what's being said in the Zoom, so I don't know.
Well,
Okay.
Richard, we need you to use a mic.
I think when somebody, when Tiger or anyone asks a question, we
I'll
need to
repeat it.
repeat the question, so.
Okay.
We have a couple questions.
And we also have Allison.
Yeah, let's get to a couple questions online, then I'll get to you, Stan.
Okay, Allison, do you want to say your questions, or I can read them off your comments?
Can you hear me?
Okay, well. Okay.
Should be coming from the room. I'll speak louder, and I'll just ask everybody to speak louder, and then for anybody who asks a question in the room, Tim or I will repeat them louder so people online can hear. And
Were you able to hear that online?
Yes.
Good. We'll just speak up, and I'll repeat questions too. We'll do it a double way.
let's go to Allison.
Okay. Did you have an additional question, Allison?
She's on mute. Start with the one above. Okay.
Somebody tell me if you can hear me in the room.
Why base ERCOT's energy savings on weighted average of costs across ERCOT rather than costs specifically inside the Austin load zone, which are often higher than ERCOT average energy costs?
So I think I can address that one. Can you guys hear me okay?
Can't hear me in the room, so I'll put my questions in the chat. So she's speaking, but we can't hear Allison. You had come off mute for a second,
Hi.
Allison.
I will say I can hear you all.
Okay, why don't you come up here, Brian, if you want to speak to that.
Okay, all right.
Just real quick, anybody that's online, if you go to the
So,
bottom left
I
of your
think
screen,
that the question may be somewhat confusing two different aspects of the valuation methodology. We have one component is the avoided cost of energy, and that is really the same calculation methodology that we use to develop the initial level of the value of solar during the rate case. So that is actually sensitive to the prices just in Austin Energy's load zone. However, for the avoided cost of transmission, as you guys may know, Austin Energy pays based on the grid-wide costs of transmission service. Utilities take service, like us, from the entire grid, not just from the part of the system that we own. So that's why the transmission component includes a share of grid-wide charges.
Yeah, and just to put a little bit finer point on that, it's my understanding that the energy is based on the AE load zone day ahead prices.
She had one more question here. Would this solar standard offer rider rate apply only to community solar projects or to all Austin residential solar customers?
Wait, can you restate that? Sorry.
Would this solar standard offer rider rate apply only to community solar projects or to all Austin residential solar customers?
So every project that is a standard offer project is utility side interconnected. It's not behind the meter. And all of those projects, the energy from those will feed into the community solar program.
Allison followed up by saying, but the PowerPoint says avoided costs of energy based on weighted average across all ERCOT, not AE load zone costs. And yes, to clarify, all prices are 3-year rolling averages. 3-year, 5-year.
Where does it say that, Allison?
Description there, I guess, maybe.
It says the weighted average of energy in the ERCOT market. But to be more specific, it's looking at specifically the AE load zone price for the day ahead market. Okay, we'll change the slide. Okay, any other questions about how this will, how this works, what it is today? Again, it's out of the gate, it's 7.61 cents for systems under a megawatt and 4.94 cents for systems over a megawatt. And then it will change in 3 years based on the previous 5 years of analysis. Are there any questions about that? Stan?
So with the rebate program, there's a condition that a system has to remain in operation for 10 years in the way that's interconnected. Do you imagine any stipulations like that for this? I'm just imagining in the future, if there's this pricing, the value of solar, and there's a difference, other optionality, would a system owner have that option to change their connection?
Okay, so the question is that in the incentive program, we require that a system be operational for 10 years. And the question from Stan was that, and like with the different values between the value of solar and the standard offer value, customers may want to change their interconnection point at some point down the road so that they can capture one value instead of the other. Did I capture that right?
Yep.
And is there a requirement that we keep this as a standard offer for a minimum of 10 years? We do not have that as a requirement. Basically, if it's interconnected and it went through the process to be a standard offer project, as long as it's interconnected and it's producing, we'll pay that rate. Okay, so also it's worth noting that consumption at that service is going to be charged at the demand less than 10 kW rate. So that's a $36.41 charge every month, and every kilowatt hour consumed, like at night when your inverters are in standby mode, would be at 13.38 cents. So we assume that will be somewhat de minimis, but that will be netted out against the production rate. And then when we settle up, then that would be at that netted amount. Is there any questions about that? Stan?
Related, just matching the interconnection, I assume if it's on the utility side, the transformer will be the primary bottleneck or potential bottleneck? And
That's correct.
Would any upgrades would be the developers on the developer side? And are there plans to update guidelines, guidance for what those in terms of if there's any transformer specific technologies and it's
So the question is would the developer be responsible for required grid upgrades to perform the interconnection? The answer is yes. It's the SIAC. So basically, you know, if you're proposing to interconnect a system that would require a transformer upgrade, the responsibility and cost of that upgrade would be on the integrator. This is how we've done business in Austin for as long as I can remember. And, you know, I don't foresee any real changes to that or the requirements for interconnection. So if there's more guidance that's needed in some area, we're happy to, you know, turn the gray areas to black and white to the extent that we possibly can, and we can work on that. You know, I think that they're pretty close to there, and I think it's relatively clear when a upgrade is required. And we'll make that very specific when you submit your interconnection application. And so if there is an upgrade required, we will give you what needs to be upgraded and an estimate on the cost for that. All right, so this is going to kind of dive into some of that stuff. So to be eligible for the program, currently the system has to be greater than 50 kW, less than 10 megawatts. It has to be distribution interconnected on the utility side of the meter. It must be installed by an Austin Energy participating contractor, and we'll go over what it takes to become that. No other solar rate schedule may apply. It requires application and interconnection approval prior to construction. Austin Energy retains the RECs from these systems because we're going to be retiring them on behalf of the community solar subscribers once that happens. So any REC transfer needs to be facilitated by the system owner to the extent that that's needed. We're exploring that with our ERCOT. I believe that we'll be able to do that for systems under a megawatt without any obligations from the system owner, but we need to definitely confirm that. For systems over a megawatt, there will likely be some kind of interaction between us on a regular basis to facilitate the transfer of those RECs. The auxiliary power permit is required and all associated permits. So this is very typical in Austin to a standard commercial interconnection process. Again, service connection costs go to the solar integrator. The equipment must be new and listed on the California Energy Commission's list. And we will pause the program for review at 20 megawatts. We don't plan to totally take the program away, but we do want to put that safety net in there for us to make sure that we have the operational efficiencies needed to facilitate more than 20 megawatts before we continue with more capacity in the program. And we reserve the right to stop at 20 megawatts if needed. Are there any questions about these requirements?
Apparently they're getting feedback from other people. We can ask them to mute their mics.
The person who's on the cellular call, if you could please mute so everyone else can hear better, that would be really appreciated.
Sure.
Right. Any questions? Here's mine.
Will you be working with installers to assure that all community solar installations can be operated on isolated mode in the event of a distribution problem or gen shortfall?
The only way to operate a PV system in isolated mode without the grid is to co-locate batteries that I know of. So we're not requiring that that these system owners install batteries to facilitate that. I mean, I don't think that we would preclude it, but it seems like a pretty expensive endeavor just to make sure that the system's producing in backup mode.
But it's also in front of the meter anyway. So on
Yeah.
the utility side of the meter. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they could potentially put it behind their meter, but I just don't see that happening. The 50 kW minimum, okay, so there was a question, why is there a 50 kW minimum for these systems? And that is because this is new to us. We want this to be, and we're getting to 20 megawatts, so this could be, you know, a lot of systems. If these were 5 kW systems on residential, it could be very problematic for us, so we're looking at that. We want to be able to facilitate residential. That has always been something that we couched as a future discussion and potential future functionality of this, but out of the gate, we're not ready to do it at such small scale and have so many interconnections and potential issues if we don't have everything aligned as we need to on our side operationally.
We want to make sure we can be successful and establish a really good momentum, being able to handle all of the interconnections before we would go to potentially smaller systems. So that's why the 50 kW requirement is in place.
Maybe along those lines of thinking, I know Encore has been pretty successful in managing the program with certain applications for companies. There's a participation. Do you imagine anything like this? I imagine there are national interconnection capacity. Any kind of guardrails.
We want the market to sort it out. We had not thought or we haven't explored that path.
Yeah, that's the 20 megawatt limit that we're talking about. That is a pause for us to assess exactly. You know, we don't know. That 20 kW or 20 megawatts could be in a very short period of time. It could take a very long period of time, frankly, before we hit that. We just don't know. So that's what the intent is.
We'll have ongoing stakeholder meetings and we can explore options and deal with issues as they arise as well. So, and that 20 megawatt mark would be a good time to make adjustments to the program if needed. Are there other questions online?
There was a request online to share a list of our participating contractors, which we certainly can do.
The list of participating contractors in our current programs is online. You can just Google Austin Energy Solar Participating Contractors. That should take you there. Those contractors can also participate in this program. When they do, we will designate them online. Currently, yep, Micah attached the link. So currently, they're either residential or commercial. So they'll be residential, commercial, standard offer. And so we're going to go through what it takes to become a participating contractor here at the end of this presentation. Kaiva?
Will you be warning PV customers in advance that their systems can't be operated in islanded mode? May end up with customers who didn't do enough homework to blame for AE for not protecting them from spending big money on PV, but unable to keep lights on in power failure.
So the answer to that is yes. All of these solar projects are going to be required to sign an interconnection agreement. In that interconnection agreement, we inform them of details such as, you know, if the grid goes down, if you do not have batteries, your system goes down as well. I would just note that these systems are for production, so they will not have loads to serve directly. So, you know, but we will make it clear to like a host customer, for example, that by hosting a PV system that's owned by a third party, you're not getting resiliency along with that unless you have a battery interconnected. I think there are electrical ways to put that battery behind the customer meter, and then have a disconnect between the PV system and the transformer to enable that. But we would have to explore that with you hand in hand if that situation arises and you're looking to develop that functionality. So, and that would all be part of the interconnection review. The 50 kilowatt threshold is internal. And we never said that we were going to put societal benefits to this, as far as I can remember. And it said that we were going to put societal benefits on it.
Yeah, I think. I think that, we can review the previous materials, but I think the value of solar modeling was definitely intentional and still is. The societal benefits, that really is the key difference. And that was not if it was, that was not intended to be communicated. What was intended to be communicated is that this is based on the value of solar, which it is. But the societal benefits as a part of that value of solar was not intended to be communicated. And as we kind of previously discussed, that's because this is an entirely different proposition from what the value of solar is. So the societal benefits portion is duly part of the value of solar, but it's not part of the solar standard offer because it's a different customer, it's a different entity, it's a different proposition.
I mean, I'm bringing up the other presentation. Was anybody opposed to the answer?
I'm not sure I understand.
Anybody outside of Austin Energy?
The question is was there someone external to Austin Energy that is pushing for us to have a rate that did not include the societal benefits? And the answer to that is no. Okay, so while the Travis County Appraisal District had given us previous guidance that they would allow for tax exemptions for solar property tax, they have done further review, and the state views these systems as a different type of system than if the system is defraying a customer's bill. And so as such, a revenue producing solar array is taxable and is not eligible for the tax exemption. So what will have to happen, don't know why that happened. So what will have to happen is that when these systems are under development, there'll be a step in the process that requires you to claim these with the local appraisal district, the appropriate appraisal district, so that the host doesn't get inadvertently assessed that tax amount. Any questions on that? Okay, so who's eligible to receive the standard offer? So this is the system owner, or we also refer to them as the applicant. So that system owner can be the host customer. So let's say you have a strip mall where they have split incentives. They would have never went with the solar project until now. They can get that direct benefit that they're looking for. So now that strip mall owner could put a solar array up, and he's the host, he's the owner, he is the applicant. He still has to have a participating contractor install the system, but then after that, they would receive the payment directly. Another scenario would be that property owner is approached by a third party that wants to develop this system and sell the energy to Austin Energy through the standard offer. So that in that case, the third party and the host have to have some kind of a relationship. So there needs to be an agreement between the two. Austin Energy is not going to get in the middle of that. The extent that we will participate in that will be just to inform host customers of things that they should be considering. We're not going to try to help manage those contracts. Now, that said, if there's an ownership change, then we're going to help you facilitate that ownership change, make sure that we have all of the proper documentation in the system for that, and make sure that you guys have the proper relationship with the hosts so that we don't get into trouble and have conflicts, but we're staying at arm's length as it pertains to the agreement between Austin Energy and the host. So then another potential scenario is that the participating contractor is the developer and system owner. So likewise, they would still have to have the hosting agreement, but the participating contractor could also own the system at the end of the day. So applicant requirements also include that an Austin Energy commercial electric service account. The system owner has to own the PV system and the relationship with the host, like I explained. They have to be registered with the city as a vendor so that we can make payments directly to them. They have to create an account with ERCOT and register the RECs if necessary. So we think that's probably going to be the case for systems over a megawatt at least, but maybe even others. We're still trying to hammer that out with ERCOT. And then they have to facilitate, regardless, the transfer of RECs to Austin Energy. So any questions about the eligibility? Any online? No. So how do you become a participating contractor? Well, first you have to become a registered contractor with the city. So that means you can pull permits and do electrical work. So you're going to need to go to the ABC directive and register as a contractor there. You'll navigate to the new professional trade contractor registration and then follow the instructions there to submit your web-based application form. And then you link your contractor registration to your ABC account. And this will enable you to submit permit applications. So to do that, you go to the contractor registration page. We will give you these links. And then you update existing contractor registration and licenses. Once you've done that, then you can apply to be a participating solar contractor with Austin Energy. So you have to have that as a participating contractor. You also have to have a vendor registration. You have to follow the procedure for becoming a participating contractor, which includes demonstrating that you have a electrical contractor's license within the state of Texas. You have a master electrician on staff that meets the city of Austin's requirements. So they can't be a master electrician for multiple companies. I think there is some latitude for them to be the master of their own company and then one other company. You have to have commercial general liability insurance, auto liability insurance, workers' comp, and you have to sign the handbook and the code of conduct, and take the FACTA training to make sure that you're using customer information appropriately, and to be in good standing with consumer protection entities. So once you've met all those requirements, we're going to need you to attend a technical and administrative training, which we offer on a monthly basis, and we will allow you to do that through viewing recorded trainings online. So any questions about becoming a participating contractor? So now on to timelines. So we're sending the rate to council currently. That's a long process. It's already started. We hope to get council approval of the rate on October 10th. So we would be doing the program pre-launch on October 15th. At the pre-launch, we'll have another stakeholder meeting. We will review in detail. It'll be probably a long meeting, but we're going to review in detail all of the program guidelines, the required documents, and all of the handbook requirements. We'll review application, permitting, and inspection processes, so that you guys should be well prepared to get out of the gate. We'll begin registering solar standard offer participating contractors at that point, and we'll get you listed on the web pages. We'll launch the web pages. We will begin accepting web-based we'll begin accepting applications through the web-based processing tool, EECP. Some of you are familiar with that. And then upon application approval, the projects may begin construction at that point. So we will be facilitating the interconnection of these systems no earlier than February 3rd. So potentially someone, if you're really fast, you could build one by then, potentially. But remember, these are all going to require shutdowns, okay? Because you're developing a new service behind a transformer. So they're going to require a shutdown at the transformer to get them interconnected. So that should be part of your planning process. So beginning February 3rd, we'll start setting those meters for the projects that are ready for that, if there are any. And we'll do them in the order at which they achieve final inspection pass. Once the meter is set, you guys will have permission to operate. You can start running those systems and generating kilowatt hours. Also at that time, accounts will be activated, so the loads will also be measured and billed accordingly. And then after that, the billing payments, the billing/payments will happen on a quarterly basis at first, at least, and we're currently exploring the direct deposit capabilities of the system. If we get that in place, and once we get that in place, the frequency would change to monthly, most likely. Any questions about the timeline?
There is one question online about what you said earlier about the tax credit and being eligible for an additional 10% ITC. Are you referring to the low-income community bonus? That would be not the bonus itself, but the tax credit offered, which is, I believe, a 30% base rate and 10% extra for domestic content material.
Yes. We'll have more information about that at the next meeting. But I believe because it's feeding into a community solar program, there's a 10% tax credit.
Okay.
Not the 20% one.
No.
The 20% one is much more burdensome, and I don't see a clear path for us to be eligible for that. So we'll come with more details there. Nothing is certain. You know, it's all based on your eligibility as the federal government requires. So we're not saying that you are definitely eligible. We're saying that we think that we meet the criteria to be eligible. So, Stan, I saw you had your hand.
Yeah, not a question on timelines, but this was an earlier question about interconnection provisions. Does the downtown network come into, I know this is a different approach and protections that normally would be needed. Maybe bypass that. I know it's not a huge market, but I think there are.
I'm going to say that these will likely not be allowed on the downtown network because the downtown network doesn't allow for exporting. And these would be all export practically.
Yeah, I'm just thinking on the other side of the
We'll have to explore that with engineering. So I don't think anything precludes you from submitting an application for review on that, but.
When the downtown library was set up, it was set up to where it could never have the potential of backfeeding onto the grid, that it would always be consumed on the library site because the downtown network could not have the backfeeding onto the grid. And you're exactly right that this would all be feeding onto the grid.
That's correct. But I think what Stan's saying is that because you could potentially interconnect on the other side of the relays, because the reason that what happens is if a customer exports energy, then that relay sees that, and then it starts wanting to transfer the load to another feeder, and then you start to have this the relays start going crazy. And so I think what Stan's saying is that you interconnect on the other side of those relays so that it's injecting directly into the system and it's not tripping the relays and causing them to be frantic. So we can explore that. Can you take a note of that, Sam, and we'll explore that with engineering, try to give you some guidance. We don't want you to have to submit something. I was going to get it. But yeah, we'll see if we can provide some guidance on that.
I think there was another question online.
So we're just going to open up to all questions at this point. So I think we're done with the presentation here.
These would also be eligible for production tax credits as well?
I think that's the onus of exploring that is on the developer. We're not going to provide guidance on that. I just don't know. What other questions do we have? Issues that people feel we need to explore.
Online.
Silence is golden. But we'll give you some more time. Yeah, there we go.
What's your best guess to grow this to the 20 megawatts?
I don't know. I think that the price is in the market, and we won't know what the uptake is until we start, because there's so many things that go into driving a solar project, from what kind of hosting fee needs to be negotiated to, access to capital, the cost of money, availability of things. There's a lot that goes into it, and so it's hard to say. It could be that the pricing is right and they explore and find 4 or 5 megawatt projects, and then bam, we're there. But maybe that's not the case, and we end up with 150 or 20 kilowatt projects or whatever. So
when this feeds in, when it feeds into community solar, is that going to be marketed the way that original community solar is to end users?
That's another thing that's our next step too.
And a low income rate.
Yeah. So the current model is based on the 2018 rollout of the community solar program, where customers locked in, and they locked into that portfolio. And so, those customers will remain locked in. Nothing's going to change their offer. how we treat this with the new community solar program, because now it's kind of a different scenario where we were like, doing power purchase agreements, which are fixed, and then you have variability of the market, and there's some hedging that went on there. But now this portfolio is going to track with the market.
This rate could go up over
So,
time, but it could still be.
yeah, so we're not going to have some kind of flip, because at the time that we bought those other projects, they cost more than what the market was providing in avoided costs, for example. But now those avoided costs have went up, and so those projects are doing better. And I need to like really analyze this, but I feel like we have a good balance in the program from the original system, the original program design. I need to prove that out, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with this new batch of capacity that we're hoping to gain through this.
You're
and then
anticipating having
retailer
program
the low-income portion,
low-income
I
portion?
believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
the
But at
companion.
minimum, we're doing solar for all, which will be a whole new set of stakeholder meetings for y'all to enjoy. But solar for all is dedicated to low income. So it will be all low income or in disadvantaged communities. So we'll have to see, and we want to do what's right, but we need to have more stakeholder engagement on it to figure that out. And we want to tailor the project to be best in class, or the
But
program.
also, to your point, that can go up or down as the market goes up and down. It's tracking the market.
So what you gain in this program won't just straight line go into the CAP program as I know it, but it will have to be remarketed, renegotiated to different customers.
I think we are going to need to consider new program design for community solar. At least consider it. But that's not a now problem. It's a in the near future problem. Stan.
Maybe a speculation, and I apologize if this was considered in previous meetings, but partly to this point, if the black swan event, if something happens where prices go way down, market, whatever that is, I'm not saying it is there any consideration of a floor for this? Or is it really just a merchant plan? Here's the risk, take it or leave it.
The question was, is there consideration of a floor for this, as had been speculated in previous meetings?
Yeah, so someone had mentioned whether or not we could offer a floor. And the answer is we don't plan to offer a floor to this. So, it's what we do, we can give you the transparency that it's going to follow the market. And you guys know what the calculations are, how we arrive at the numbers. And so any assumptions as to where the market is going to go is on y'all. We don't have a crystal ball, but I can say that, while we know that there are issues like price separation that have driven our local prices up, and we do plan to address those issues over time. So, but there are so many other factors that go into the market price with low growth and everything else. It's hard to say what's going to happen.
Hi, Tim. This is David. Can you hear me? Hello?
David, you can come off mute
Yes.
and ask your question if you'd like.
Well, I'm calling in. Can you hear me?
David, if there's a challenge with the audio, you can put your question into the chat.
Yeah, please put that in the chat.
Okay.
In the meantime, Stan has another question.
Sorry, one. At some point you had mentioned, I think there was a conversation about, if this all went really well and feeders start to get backed up, just managing that is a problem, not just the administration side, but from a design, a developer's perspective. Can you imagine transparency on feeder congestion at some point? I'm thinking like the GIS system and the land development. Like you can see real-time-ish where things need.
We do see that as a future need. And we are working towards having a hosting capacity map that we could make public. So that's on the glide path, but we're not there yet.
And I also think, so your question was around transparency. You know, transparency is a very important goal of this project and this initiative. I'm not sure we know exactly what form that would take, your question in terms of the transformers, but I know that that's a goal. So we'll continue to work on that, and we'll continue to figure out how we can balance transparency in this.
We get David's question.
David's question was the VOS over 9 cents a watt in a previous presentation? If so, why did it change?
The value of solar is 9.91 cents. It includes societal benefits. The standard offer program does not include societal benefits. Societal benefits are currently 2.3 cents.
And then can you speak to the change of ownership process in any more depth?
A little bit. So we see that there are two potential chains of ownership that we would need to be notified of and have processes for. So the host customer could change ownership, in which case I think they would need to obviously disclose that to the new owner, and the system owner would need to facilitate a new hosting agreement. And we would like to keep that hosting agreement on file and make sure that that handoff goes smoothly. Another potential ownership change is that the system could change ownership, in which case we would be paying a new customer, and a new customer would be taking service on that account. So we will have processes developed to enable the system ownership to also change hands.
Kind of, I wanted to speak to it and type it out, but is participating as a contractor the same as asset owner developer, or are there other requirements for being an asset owner?
Yeah. So the asset owner does not have to be a contractor. So the person that, or the company that installs the system has to be a participating contractor with Austin Energy. But the asset owner can be any third party, and they just need to be registered with the city as a vendor, and they will be the owner of the account with Austin Energy. Any other questions?
Please clarify the comments about taxes. I think Tim said the revenue is taxable. Previously, we spoke about how adding the solar will not increase property taxes. Is it the same tax?
So what I was speaking to in the previous slide, I'll get back up to that, is property tax specific. So normally solar interconnected for the customer behind the customer meter, that solar is eligible for a property tax exemption. But because this is a revenue producing system and it's not behind the meter defraying electric charges with the utility, then the state of Texas sees this as a revenue producing solar, and it is not eligible for property tax exemption as such.
Quick question. Hi, Richard, Tim, this is Dave Tuttle. Hey, what about the effort on the solar plus storage tariff?
That would be like any one-off situation like that would need to be taken up with the appraisal district.
think Dave Tuttle has a question, but he is, we can't hear him, so I think.
Can you type your question in, Dave? And-
Sure, I'm doing that right now.
Does mean property taxes will increase?
No, because the value of the solar array will be taxed. So yes, in that regard, but that tax will go to the system owner, not the property owner. Unless they're one and the same. We need to inform them. And if we don't, then they will automatically assess that value to the property owner. So as part of the process for the application and to get final interconnection approval, that will be a requirement.
Dave Tuttle says, when will we see more about the solar plus storage tariff from 2021? Council resolution.
Asking about, yeah, let's have a offline discussion about that, Dave. I can get back to you. I don't have this is Richard Genesee. I don't have a exact answer for you. I'm happy to have a discussion with you separately about that.
Any other questions at this time? And if you're feeling like this is too much pressure and I can't think of questions when I'm under pressure, I need time, that's okay. You can send us your questions. So feel free to send us any questions about the solar standard offer to solar@austinenergy.com. And we will, if we can answer those directly, we will. If not, then we'll bring them to the next stakeholder meeting and discuss those out as much as possible. That will be on October, what did I say?
We said October 15th.
October 15th. The 10th. So it's going to go up through all of the commissions as well, with presentations to the commissions as well. No, in September. So it'll go through the September commissions meetings to hit the October 10th council. Yes. Stan.
One last question. If to the question of kind of what's your best guess of timeline to 20 megawatts, let's say things don't go well or something's weird in the market and you don't get the uptake, do you kind of reserve the right to do an interim time-based evaluation? Say in a year, it's not looking good. Is that a reconsideration point? This seems like it's in between your renewable goals and a market solution, and you're trying to balance the two. If the market's not delivering in whatever way, aiming for goals, you're not going to get 20 megawatts with the current. Revisit it, you have that kind of as a background.
Yeah, I think, that's really the whole point of the limits that we put into place and the reassessment. I think what we will do is, we don't know, right? So, I mean, we definitely reserve the right to, if things aren't going well, as you said, re-looking at this in terms of what can be done. Yeah, we reserve the right. I doubt we would let it go a year with no, response before we would take some sort of action.
All right. One last call for questions. Stan, you can ask again too. I won't hold you to it. All right. right, y'all. Well, feel free to, again, give us any questions to solar@Austin Energy. And the next meeting will be jam-packed with information and fine detailed information. So it may be a longer stakeholder meeting, but we will reach out, give you proper notification that we do plan to have it on the 15th. But we'll definitely send those invites out probably at the beginning of October. So, thank you for your time and attendance today and all the great questions. And we look forward to launching this program and hopefully having overwhelming success.